Pak Bani.
Siang, Mbak.
Hai Pak, apa kabar?
Baik, alhamdulillah.
Akhirnya jadwalnya cocok sama Pak Bani.
Selamat siang Pak Bani.
Selamat siang, Pak.
Iya
Kabar
Pak.
Pak, sehat-sehat selalu.
Alhamdulillah, sehat-sehat.
Pak Bani agak rumit dengan kedua kita.
Selamat siang Pak Bani ya.
Selamat siang, Mbak.
Iya Pak Bani, jadi hari ini Bu Amel yang akan jadi moderator kita.
Ya.
Bu Amel, perkenalkan ini ada Pak Bani. Pak Bani ketua ya Pak di Yayasan Samudera Indonesia Peduli, dan juga salah satu Dewan Penasehat kita gitu. Ada juga Bu Maho ini Direktur Peace Building Program dari Sasakawa Peace Foundation yang support kita untuk adain publikasi tentang filantropi trend ya, corporate foundation, corporate philanthropy, dan juga family foundation. Ini yang ada Bu Maho gitu. Satu lagi ada Pak Alexander. Ini saya belum ketemu sih mukanya dari tadi. Halo Pak Alex. Jadi nanti di sesi diskusi Bu Amel akan nge-lead. Nanti pertama akan Bu Maho dulu presentasi. Setelah Bu Maho akan ada Indra Uno. Baru nanti ada Pak Alex dan Pak Bani sebagai penutup ya Pak untuk sesi pemaparan. Setelah itu nanti kita akan Q&A di discussion. Selesai, Bu Amel akan invite lagi nih masing-masing narasumber untuk kasih closing statement seperti itu, sebelum akhirnya dilempar lagi ke saya untuk closing diskusi hari ini. Seperti itu. Apakah ada pertanyaan dari Pak Bani, Bu Maho, Pak Alex?
Kalau saya, tapi saya nggak ada pemaparan ya. Saya nggak nyiapin slide apa-apa gitu.
Oke, nggak apa-apa Pak, nggak masalah.
Apa ya?
Nanti mungkin berarti kita lebih ke interaktif discussion aja ya Bu Amel ya. Sampai sekarang sih
Ibu Maho kayak orang Jepang ya?
emang Jepang.
Oh, emang
Orang Jepang memang.
orang Jepang.
Iya.
Tapi bisa bahasa Indonesia ya?
Ya, dulu kerja di Indonesia ya.
Wah, hebat Ibu.
Halo Pak Alex.
Halo,
Iya Pak Alex, apa kabar Pak? Salam kenal.
salam kenal juga Bu Dinda,
Iya.
Bapak-bapak.
Pak Alex, saya mau kenalin juga nih ada Pak Gusman Yahya, Direktur Eksekutif dari Filantrop Indonesia. Mungkin baru kali ini kita kenal apa ya, tempat tetap muka ya.
Salam kenal Pak Usman. Bu
Salam
Dinda,
kenal Pak Alex. Terima kasih meluangkan waktunya buat acara sore ini.
sama-sama. Mudah-mudahan bisa menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan ini. Ini berarti bahasa yang digunakan bahasa apa ya, Bu Dinda, Pak Gusman?
Kami karena ini sesinya internasional ya, sangat mendorong narasumber untuk memaparkannya pakai bahasa Inggris. Tapi kami juga menyediakan interpreter Bapak dan Ibu, just in case nanti di tengah gugup gitu ya, atau enggak ngeblank, boleh banget pakai bahasa Indonesia, nanti akan dibantu sama interpreter kita gitu. Oke, sip.
Saya juga
Kita
punya
akan mulai.
pemaparan.
Apa,
Sama
Pak?
seperti Pak Bani, saya nggak punya pemaparan.
Iya.
Saya kira
Sama-sama Pak. Sama-sama. Justru bagus interaktif Pak.
Iya.
Oke. Saya kira menjawab pertanyaan saja. Saya oke kalau menjawab pertanyaan.
Oh,
Nanti Bapak bisa share juga Pak Alex, kenapa Transkon kok tertarik untuk memulai kegiatan filantropinya, itu dari mana gitu ya.
Oke.
Strategi apa aja yang udah dilakuin untuk membangun CSR programnya, lalalala gitu. Oke. Kita akan mulai jam berapa nih, Aul?
Indra udah gabung atau gimana?
Pak Indra katanya akan gabung 13.40, Bu. 5 menit lagi.
Oh,
Iya, kita mungkin bisa mulai aja nanti 13.35 ya. Untuk opening dulu. Oke.
30. Bu Maho rencana ke Bali hari ini?
Tidak, saya tidak ikut EBDM, cuma kuliah saya saja. Tapi saya baru kembali dari Jakarta. Kemarin pagi ini mendarat ke Narita dari Jakarta.
Oke. Disuruh kembali ke Jakarta, Bu Maho.
Iya, tapi ini sudah 10 tahun tidak kembali ke Jakarta dan saya merasa Jakarta beda sekali. Bukan Jakarta yang saya tahu. Jadi Jakarta sudah mewah, banyak gedung-gedung tinggi dan bandaranya wah mewah sekali.
Oh, yang sama macetnya ya Bu?
Iya, sama-sama macet. Macetnya sama.
Sekali Bu Maho bahasa Indonesianya.
Sedikit-sedikit saya kata-katanya kembali, tapi sudah lama tidak pakai. Tapi Indonesia hebat ya, ini filantropi apa namanya pekerjaan filantropi corporate itu hebat sekali ya. Saya sempat baca kerja Indra ini.
Yes, Bapak dan Ibu, punten kita mulai webinarnya ya. Oke, mulai meeting peserta.
Recording in progress.
On course to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming within the next 2 decades. The world is slipping into what we would call climate crisis. Covering around more than 66 million hectares of land. Since then, numerous policies were enacted in an effort to advance sustainable development, curbing deforestation, forest fires, and establishing social forestry. Six critical enablers of progress put in place by all actors playing their part in sustainable development, ensuring a positive progress on sustainable development. The production and trade of sustainable products continues to grow, signaling market transformation due to the growing demand for sustainable products. This push towards sustainable consumption leads to an increase in certifications for sustainable commodities. All the policies enacted by government and programs initiated by various stakeholders leads to a causal web effect, resulted in significant decrease in deforestation, forest fire, and improved land rights governance since 2015. The solutions are out there. We need to catalyze collective actions to curb commodity-driven deforestation, halt the impending climate crisis, and enhance sustainable commodity production. The Southeast Asia region has demonstrated proof of transitioning towards sustainability. Let us continue to work together and catalyze the power of collective action, or in our culture we know it as gotong royong, to ensure sustainable commodities and trade for a forest-positive future.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Greeting to all the honorable panelists, the moderator, and all Bapak Ibu participants. On behalf of Filantropi Indonesia and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, we are welcoming you to the FIFEST 2022 on today's session, Embracing the Role of Family and Corporate Foundation through collective action in accelerating SDG achievement. I am Dinda Sonoloka, will be the MC for today's forum. Thank you, Bapak Ibu, for virtually attending this afternoon dialogue. We inform you that interpreter feature is available to help you following today's discussion. Kami informasikan kepada Bapak dan Ibu bahwa forum ini telah tersedia interpreter untuk membantu Bapak Ibu semua dalam mengikuti dialog kita pada siang hari ini. Today's forum is extraordinary because we are honored to have great panelists and moderators to share their thoughts and experiences in running their philanthropy institutions and its activities. But Bapak Ibu, prior to the dialogue, let me invite Pak Gusman Yahya, Executive Director of Filantropi Indonesia, to deliver a welcoming speech. Pak Gusman, the time is yours.
Thank you, Dinda. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good afternoon for all of us. I would like to greet our distinguished speakers who will be joining us today. Ms. Maho Nakayama, she's the Director of Asia Peace Institute from the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. Dr. Indra Uno, the Chairman of the Board of Executive, Minar Uno Foundation, who will be joining us later. Bapak Alexander Syauta, the Corporate Secretary of PT Transkon Jaya Tbk. Bapak Bani and Mulia, the President Director of PT Samudera Indonesia Tbk, as well as the Chairman of the yayasan Samudera Indonesia Peduli, and he's also the member of the Advisory Board of Filantropi Indonesia. Last but not least, Professor Amelia will be our moderator today. She is the Director of Social Trust Funds with Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, and she is also the member of the Executive Board of Filantropi Indonesia. And to all participants in today's forum, welcome to Philanthropy Festival 2022. Philanthropy Festival 2022 is a platform for philanthropy stakeholders to discuss and share mainstream issues, innovation, policies, and best practices of philanthropy engagement in Indonesia. The theme for this year's event is Philanthropy Hub, Strengthening Philanthropy Ecosystem to Accelerate the Achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. The theme addresses opportunities, strategies, and priorities in developing Indonesia's philanthropy ecosystem that will help accelerate the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. Today's session, entitled Embracing the Role of Family and Corporate Foundation Through Collective Action in Accelerating SDGs Achievement, will discuss the experience and transformations of foundations in Japan and Indonesia in support of their country's development. Corporate and family foundations in Indonesia have grown rapidly in the last decade. The growing numbers of philanthropy institutions is inseparable from the improved philanthropy ecosystem in Indonesia. Based on Indonesia's Philanthropy Outlook 2022, it is stated that corporate philanthropy development and the transformations of family foundations are the two areas of progress in philanthropy development in Indonesia. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, nowadays, corporate philanthropy has grown strategically through the establishment of corporate foundations. We can also see that the shifting of philanthropy activities through corporate foundations become more transformative and sustainable related to the company's goals. Furthermore, Indonesia's Family Foundation began to develop from early 2000 to 2010. In the early era, the Family Foundation used to manage the company's CSR. Nowadays, Family Foundation has transformed independently from the founder's corporation. This phenomenon is driven by the reason to maintain the Family Foundation's independencies and flexibility to support the areas of development in Indonesia. Those findings come from the research publication done by Kedai Kopi Research Agencies and Philanthropy Indonesia with the generous support of Sasakawa Peace Foundation. The research elaborates the trends related to corporate philanthropy and family foundations development in Indonesia. The research expected to become a reference of all relevant stakeholders to understand the work and characteristic of corporate and family foundation and how those philanthropy institutions collaborate with their stakeholders and support to the Indonesia's development. It is our hope that today's showcase of experiences and discussion can enrich and confirm the findings of the research that will strengthen our effort collectively in in addressing national and global agenda, including the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. On behalf of Filantropi Indonesia, we welcome you to this session and thank you for being part of Filantropi Festival 2022. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Pak Gusman, for the welcoming speech. Bapak Ibu, Pak Gusman has mentioned that FIFEST 2022 is convened virtually for the whole of June, so please make sure to join all the activities of FIFEST 2022. For further information about the event, please visit fifest.id. Moving forward, please allow me to introduce Bu Amelia Fauzia, who will be our moderator. Bu Amel is a social historian professor with expertise on Islamic philanthropy. She is a lecturer at Faculty of Arts and Humanities, Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University Jakarta, or as we know as UIN Jakarta, and visiting fellow at School of Humanities and Social Science, the University of New South Wales, Canberra. Bu Amel also head of Magister Program in Islamic History at UIN Jakarta, and the Director of Social Trust Fund of UIN Jakarta. Her current research focuses on network of Islamic philanthropy in Southeast Asia and religion in women economic empowerment. Bu Amel also a member of the Executive Board of Filantropi Indonesia. Bu Amel, such an outstanding journey. Without any further ado, Bu Amel, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks so much, Mbak Dinda. Very good afternoon to everyone. The panelists and also everyone watching this webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. And I'm Amelia Fauzia. I'm very happy to lead the discussion for today, philanthropy thought leaders as a part of the FIFEST 2022. With me, there are already 4 distinguished speakers. I would like to introduce them first to say hello. First is Ibu Maho Nakayama. Selamat siang, Ibu. Ibu Maho Nakayama is from the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, and also our second speaker will be Dr. Indra Cahya Uno, Chairman of Min Uno Foundation. Good afternoon, Pak Indra.
Good afternoon, Ibu.
Okay, great. And the second speaker will be Bapak Alexander Syauta, Corporate Secretary PT Transkon Jaya. Selamat siang, Pak Alex.
Selamat siang, Bu Mulia.
And our last speaker will be Pak Bani and Mulia, President Director of PT Samudera Indonesia and also member of Advisory Board Filantropi Indonesia. Good afternoon, Pak Bani.
Good afternoon, Ibu.
Okay, great. Well, frankly, I'm so excited to have this opportunity. This is a very rare opportunity for me as academics to learn about, especially about corporate foundations and family foundations, right? Directly from people who are really experienced and working on family foundation and corporate foundations. As mentioned by Pak Gusman Yahya, he already actually started to give us like good introduction of what we are going to learn today. And we just already launched philanthropy outlook that mentioned 4 types of, let's say, philanthropy foundations in Indonesia. The first is corporate foundation, second is family foundation, and then independent foundation, and last is faith-based foundation. So now we learn about corporate and family foundations, and we also wanted to learn how this family and corporate foundation embracing the role philanthropy through the collective action in accelerating SDGs achievement. We already know from the philanthropy outlook that Indonesia is among countries that have very high generosity traditions, giving and volunteering, and we have important stakeholder for the philanthropy sector. We have donors and government also, and I think one of the most important is also foundations or philanthropy practitioners. And then without further ado, I would like to ask one of the first is Ibu Maho Nakayama from Sasakawa Peace Foundations. Ibu Maho Nakayama is Director of Asia Peace Initiative Program. I think it is within the Peace Building Program of the Sasakawa Foundation. She graduated from Tokyo University and then University of London in the School of Oriental and African Studies, in the Social Anthropology and Development. Ibu Maho joined previously the Japan Foundation, and then from 2001 to 2005 served as an Assistant Director of the Japan Foundation Jakarta Cultural Center, and 2007-2008 became Assistant to the President. And in 2008, she joined the Sasakawa Peace Foundations and designed the foundation program for peace building and conflict resolution in southern Thailand. And then since 2017, became the Director of the Asia Peace Initiative Development. She also wrote, co-authored a number of articles and books. And well, without further ado, I will give time to Ibu Maho, about 15 to 20 minutes, to let the audience learn about the Sasakawa Foundation and also how you think the role of family and corporate foundation in accelerating the SDGs achievement. Please, Ibu.
Thank you, Ibu Amelia, for your kind introduction. Assalamualaikum and selamat siang. My name is Maho Nakayama from the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. I'm extremely pleased to talk to you and meet with the leading philanthropist from Indonesia. As the Ibu Amelia kindly introduced, I was based in Indonesia for 4 years back in early 2000, and Indonesia has been a very special place for me, and I'm very impressed with the findings Indonesia had over the recent development of philanthropy in this country. So let me first express my deepest gratitude for the Philanthropy Indonesia for giving us this rare opportunity to talk about our experiences in Japan and also meet with all of you. And also, I would like to express a sense of appreciation for Pak Guzman and Mbak Tinda and your research team for your hard work of the writing up this report. I think that these 3 reports on corporate philanthropy and corporate foundation and family foundation will be launched soon. And I learned a lot from those reports. And also, I would like to apologize that in fact that today that my boss, Executive Director, Mr. Adachi, Itsu, was expected to talk to you. However, because he is now still traveling, in fact, to Indonesia, and we were not yet sure that if he can get a stable internet access. So I'm talking on behalf of him and the Sasakawa Peace Foundation today. So I would like to share with my slides here. Can you see? Can you?
Yes, we can see very clear.
So I'm given four themes from Guzman and Linda. The first, and I would like to touch on each of the questions that they gave us. The first one is that the overview of the current state of the Japanese foundations. And we don't have the original data on this, so I just borrowed from the report by the Japan Foundation Center. You can find it on the website. And in Japan, we had a new law in 2008. And according to this new law, the public interest, so-called what we call public interest organizations are now divided, categorized into 6. And there are 6 types of all these public interest organizations, but I cannot explain in detail about the legal differences here, but the important thing is the public interest incorporated foundation are the one which requires most strictly with regards to the public, how do their activities match with the public interest. And so we have about 10,000 public interest incorporated foundations and about 75,000 general incorporated foundations. And among them, grant-making foundations are about around 3,000 according to government data. And here, definition of the grant-making foundations are providing funds for research or scholarship or and the nations, including prize money. And establishment of foundation in Japan declined sharply after 1991. It's such a sharp contrast to Indonesian case, partly due to the fact that we have this extremely low interest rate policy. But instead, there is an increase of establishment of community foundations, which don't have the large scale of assets, but operate based on the donation from the public. And according to the research, the total amount of assets of about 1,000 foundation research are around this scale, 5 trillion yen, and half of them are less than 1 billion yen. And those with assets above 10 billion yen are only 12%. And only 4% of those foundations are focused solely on grant making, and most of them combine the grant making with a self-initiated programs, such as in the invitation of the key figures or training or many other forms of the activities. And the most active areas of these foundations are educations, and second being the science and technology. An example of good is by Japanese philanthropy, we were asked, and this is in fact a very difficult question that we cannot pick one or two, but if I may, I would like to introduce to you the examples by Toyota Foundation, which is one of the major leading pioneering corporate foundation in Japan. They have done, this is the program which is already finished, but they started back in 70s, a program called Learning the Neighbor, which is to translate Southeast Asian literature and other literature related writings into Japanese. And later they started translating into other Southeast Asian languages. And also they have done this they have supported this CSLAB program for 20 years. This is to promote Southeast Asian studies by Southeast Asian scholars. So they have supported CSLAB Foundation based in Manila and gave the scholarship for Southeast Asian postdoctor or doctor degree student, PhD student, to learn other Southeast Asian languages, like Indonesian scholars learning Chinese or Thai learning Indonesians. And also they have provided support for the collaborative research done by Southeast Asian research institutions. Why I think is this is a very phenomenal, is that this was the time when the Japanese corporation expanded Southeast Asia. And of course, at the time that there are so many initiatives and trying to introduce Japanese languages or Japanese art to Southeast Asians. But why they are pioneering is that instead that they thought it's better for Japanese to learn Southeast Asian to have the better economic partnership, which I think is very pioneering here. And also, we were asked to make comment on the recent development of Indonesian philanthropy. And I have read these reports, and I was very impressed by the fact that the corporate foundation, in fact, increased their budget during the COVID, although economically it was very difficult time. This is really amazing, and I was very impressed. And also, I was also, equally impressed by the fact that the family foundation in Indonesia developed in accordance with the democratization processes in Indonesia. It is really interesting to see. And also, partly the factors raised as a reason for this development, according to the report, is the freedom of program design by program officer, which I think is also very important. So program officers who have the professionalism are given the freedom to design the program, which is the key. And I agree with these findings. And now I would like to talk about the Sasakawa Peace Foundation, our foundations. We were founded in '86, and we are a member of the Nippon Foundation Group. And in fact, that we have the largest public interest incorporated foundation in Japan in terms of asset under management. So we have around that 140 billion Japanese yen as an asset, and we operate from the turnover of this endowment. Endowment came from the Nippon Foundations, and the budget is about 4 billion yen per year, which is equivalent to the 400 billion Indonesian rupiah. Around that 5 pillars of activities, the strengthening of Japan-US relations, rebuilding Japan-Asia partnership, understanding of the and relationship with Islamic countries, and ocean governance and empowerment of women. And now I'm going to talk about this fourth point, the combination of grant making and self-initiated program, which I think is important. Up to 2070, we were basically making grants. We didn't have any self-initiated program. But during that time, our top management decided to shift a self-initiated program because at that time, the discussion over the impact of the philanthropy is really discussed amongst the circle. And we were also made to think about the impact of our programs. And for the sake of making our program more impactful, came to the conclusion that we need to combine the grant making and self-initiated programs. And I'm talking about the peace building program that we have, which I was involved for the next slide, with the next slide. We started back in 2010, program for peace building and conflict resolution in Southern Thailand. Southern Thailand is around 2 million people, Muslim Malay people. They live in the 3 provinces bordering Malaysia, and they have this resistance movement against the centralized governance in Bangkok since 1960s. When war resumed the violence, and more than 7,000 people died. And we thought that this conflict area is gaining the least international attention for many reasons. So there is a room for us to intervene, and started the program in so around 12 years ago. what we did was, it's so much of the explanation. So I just shortened, only the point that I would like to explain. So there are so many peace mediation organizations all over the world. But we did that peace building or peace negotiation from in the beginning, since that the Thai government would find it very sensitive. Instead, that we started supporting the local communities and local women, and especially after Thai government started official peace talk, we came to start both sides, the government and resistance movement side in Patani. So basically, our stance is that we respect the local context and the ownership of the people on the ground, and all the time that we design program in consultation with local people as well as Thai government. Also, we also make grant, but we have the invitation program, or we do conduct the training by and other activities. So when we presented a result of 10 years, more than 10 years involvement, intervention at the international forum, we were able to gain enough attention from the Western and international peace building and peace mediation organizations. The reason is that it's very rare that the foundations does actual activities. So most of the time, these peace mediation or peace building organizations needs to seek for the international funding from the donor agencies to conduct program. So program will be the project basis with a very short time period. But instead, because we are foundations, we can give grants, but at the same time, we can commit to a particular conflict area for a long period of time, which is very rare if you look at the international players. So we are trying to expand this approach and start to work in other conflict areas. Since I have already talked too much, so now I would like to explain that the second example of ours as a combination of grant making and self-initiated program. We have this Asia Women Impact Fund, and investing that we keep $100 million separately to invest only for the gender fund with gender lens investment. So we have basically the management of the endowment. We invest many funds, but we set aside $100 million for Asia gender lens investment. And alongside doing this investment, we also make grants and do support the research or the workshop to build the ecosystem of this empowering women's entrepreneurship or the gender equality through the economic activities. So I will skip here. It is a bit too detailed. So these are the portfolio of our funds, how we invest for gender lens investment. And also we do conduct the research like this, gender lens investment landscape. This is the end of my presentation, but lastly, we were also asked about the possibility of the collaboration for the future. And in my view, because the Indonesia is so developed now and NEO is already admirable, so I think the impact can be not only within Indonesia, maybe at the regional level, Southeast Asia or international level. And we are the organization foundation working for the international corporations. So we are very open to your initiative or your ideas or the possibility of the co-funding or collaborations, especially not only for Indonesians, but also for Southeast Asians or Asians, a betterment of their Asian people. Thank you so much. I think I have talked too much, but thank you for your attention.
Okay, much Ibu Mako. It's really interesting to learn about the Sasakawa Peace Foundation. I have a question, but I will keep it until the end. I also wanted to ask a question later on. I will invite our second speaker, Bapak Dr. Indra Uno. I think Pak Indra, yeah, okay, good. Pak Indra, Dr. Indra Cahya Uno is founder of a number of corporation, I think. But now is an advisor at OKOC and also the commissioner of PT Saratoga Investama Sedaya, and also ANTV. Wow, number of very important corporation. And he is also the chairman of the Min Uno Foundation. It is an organization for youth entrepreneurship education. And the vice chairman of Budaya Luhur Foundation is a national curriculum middle and high school that focuses on active learning. And also commissioners of Jatis Mobile, founder of PT TPS Consulting Indonesia, a boutique strategic business strategy consultant, and a certified member of Indonesian Institute of Commissioners and director of Directors Division of the National Committee of Corporate Governance. Well, so impressive CV, Pak Indra. And Pak Indra is also a graduate from the University of Indonesia in Strategic Management and has a Master of Business Administration degree from University of Southern California, a Master of Science degree in Aerospace Engineering from University of Michigan, and Bachelor of Science degree in Aerospace Engineering from the Wichita State University. Well, we really want to listen about your experience in Min Uno Foundation. Like everyone in Indonesia now who is Ibu Min Uno, and great foundation has been started a long time ago. So without further ado, I will invite Bapak Indra Uno to talk between 15 to 20 minutes, please.
Okay.
Yes,
can you
we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma shalli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you very much for inviting and distinguished guests and panelists, and also from PFI. Everything here is in English, right?
Yes, it is better because for the future learning hub, this is important.
Okay. All right. Okay. If I slip and say something Indonesian, please translate. Okay, I was told this is a talk show, so I didn't prepare any presentation materials, but I could talk you through some milestones on the foundation, and later on we can have question and answer or a talk show format. And the PFI, philanthropic, what is it stands for?
Perhimpunan Filantropi Indonesia.
Oh, Perhimpunan Filantropi Indonesia. PFI, okay, it's not English, sorry, I was thinking in English. We have great networks, and we even went to one time in 2018, we went to Beijing for a workshop or a seminar, and we met a lot of people there to even share our experiences and also get experiences. The Mini Foundation established in year 2000, right around the millennia, and one of the trigger for its inception is the 1998 crisis, the economic crisis or the financial crisis. Because of those crises, I mean, the 98 crisis, we experienced a downturn in the economy, and a few of the students, college students, weren't able to get enough or sufficient funding. So, especially the one from Gorontalo. Gorontalo is a birthplace of my father in North Sulawesi. So, because he was one of the elderly in the community, he was seen as those or somebody that can provide solution. So they came to my father and said, we are basically wanting to say goodbye and coming back to our Gorontalo region because we cannot continue further with their education. So my father was thinking hard for a long time and said, okay, maybe we could spare some family funds to give scholarships so that these college students will not be a dropout. Soon enough, after year 2000 and then subsequent years of 2000, we receive annually batches of participants or those who applicants for the foundation scholarships. But soon enough, we get these applicants graduating also. Upon their graduations, they came back to my father and mother and says, okay, we're also saying thank you, but we also saying goodbye. We want to go back to our homeland. Unless we are given a job here in Jakarta or nearby. And then my father and mother started thinking that the original intentions of giving the scholarship was that so that they could be fully independent in terms of income generation, not wanting or not expecting to find work. During those times, work was okay compared to now. Now is worsened, has worsened. We have more unemployment nowadays compared to 20 years ago. So we, father, mother, and my brother, Sandy, and me, we started thinking and trying new solutions that maybe the scholarship needs to be very specific. The scholarship needs to be a entrepreneurial scholarship, or we can call it beasiswa untuk wirausaha, or scholarship for entrepreneurs. Because we think these skills, the entrepreneurship skills, are not, back in those times, were not taught in the university level or even in high school or junior high. So we gave the scholarship for 1 year for successful applicants, for them to learn, to be trained, and also to be mentored, and to be given access to market and to be given access to donors so that they could learn. And the donors are friends of family. Not only the funds come from the family, but also friends of our family. So that's how it got started. And we focus now on youth entrepreneurs because the bulk of the issue right now is that many between the age of 15 and 24, Indonesia for the last 12 years, since 2010, is ranked #1 in youth unemployment in Southeast Asia. And that hasn't moved since or even reduced. It just stays there. Even in the last 2 years, it increased the number of youth unemployment. And this is a very big concern for the foundation because we think youth those are productive ages and they are the future of this country. They are the future leaders and they need to be equipped with enough skills, especially income generation skills or entrepreneurship skills that they need so they can survive, so they can get income, so they can create a job, even for themselves. If they create income based on their two hands, it's what we call they created one job for him or herself. Now, this thinking is now 20 plus years where we have the alumni of this program is maybe around 500 for the youth unemployment, especially for the university level. But we have more than 10,000 alumni for what we call the micro economy training with the training for finance for non-financial background. So with that in mind, we think the model works and the way we make it sustainable is to transform it from foundation-like program into a movement, into a social movement. And it was mentioned before that I and my brother co-founded the social movement on job creation called OKOJ. Right now, since its inception in 2016, it has about 570,000 people networked in it. And we think if we grow that much more, not funding entirely from friends and families, but also from people in general, they can go up to millions, 2 millions, 3 millions. And this would be a viable solution for reducing the youth unemployment that we currently have. So that is a short synopsis of the foundation. We are working with foundations such as William Surya Jaya Foundation, also with Adaro, the foundation, also with other foundations such as like Tadi Rahmat Foundation also, and also with AKR Foundation, a very, very firm believer in the youth generation, that they need to be not only productive in their age, but also productive in terms of income generation. Thank you.
Okay, it's great. Thanks so much, Indra. We learn about the how Min Uno Foundations established, and then how does it look like the change from the very traditional, let's say, family foundation in social movement. Very interesting. Now I will move to the third speaker, Alexander J. Syauta, Corporate Secretary of the Transkon Jaya. Pak Alexander, has a Magister of Law from Universitas Balikpapan, and then also Bachelor of Economics from Surabaya University. A very interesting combination of economy and law. And he previously worked as a secretary of the Transkon Jaya Corporations. Previously is from Bank Arta Graha International, and then moved to be operational manager of PT Bank Arta Graha, and then becoming financial officer of Dian Batara Group, and then later on moved into PT Transkon Jaya as the chief financial officer, and now becoming corporate secretary of PT Transkon Jaya. I think we will be happy to learn from Pak Alex about the story of PT Transkon Jaya as a corporate foundation, whether it is also have some transformation, and how does the story to support the SDGs. Please, time is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Amelia. I'm sorry, I have to test my voice first. Can my voice be heard on your side, Mrs. Amelia?
Yes, good. Yeah.
Thank you for the time, Mrs. Amelia, for Filantropi Indonesia, to provide the chance for Transkon to talk amongst distinguished speakers. Thank you, Mrs. Maho, and thank you, Mr. Indra. And I believe my next session, after my session, would be Mr. Bani. And thank you, and happy to know all of you, distinguished speakers. And thank you, Mr. Guzman, for giving the time for Transkon to speak in this great forum. Before I continue describing my corporate philanthropy, I have to explain a little bit about Transkon Jaya. Transkon Jaya is a local company based in Balikpapan, East Kalimantan. This is where I'm currently speaking, in Balikpapan, East Kalimantan, soon to be the next capital city of Indonesia. East Kalimantan, not Balikpapan itself, as you well know. Now, our corporate philanthropy started back in 2018, when we decided we have grown into a, well, based on our understanding, quite a big company. Although it's quite local at the time, we have our operation spread out across Kalimantan, but we believe that we have grown into quite a middle-sized corporate, and it's time to give back to the community. We started off with a simple program, Mrs. Amelia, as big as Mr. Bani company or Mr. Indra Foundation, but we started off with a small idea, with a small concept. We started off with education. We started with a partnership with a local high school here in Balikpapan in 2018. We tried to take some of our knowledge in terms of technical. For those of you that are not familiar with Transkon Jaya is a rental company. We have operation all over Indonesia. As I'm as I'm speaking at this moment. We only have one focus, mining companies. So we try to keep our knowledge updated, and based on our ability, we try to partake with a small action, providing education to our young minds, as what Mr. Uno intended based on his presentation. We try to provide knowledge to young minds, and at the same time, we reap benefit by having employee. Once they finish their education in high school, then they became our employee. Now, what started off as a small action back in 2018, later on, moving forward 4 years later, in 2022, we have about 5 high school that already built a partnership with us. We tried to establish corporate social responsibility, corporate philanthropy in terms of education, and not just, we didn't stop at high school. As of 2020, during pandemic, we started off with university. We established a business at first, business relationship, and then work towards philanthropy in terms of education with universities. We have about 3 to 4 universities at the moment that has been working hand in hand with us, and we provided education not just to university students but also to university lecturers. That's one of our first steps in philanthropy in education, and based on one small success that we have in building human resources, we tried to branch out, so to speak, to another area. We tried with environmental. Now, based on my understanding of whole philanthropy and corporate social responsibility, SDG, there are 3 pillars that we come to work with: environmental, social, and governance. And in one aspect, we have fulfilled social. We provided education. At the same time, we gave them works. So that will increase social economy, although it's limited to Balikpapan and East Kalimantan surrounding area. But since we have managed to develop socially in terms of education, we try to branch out into environment. At the moment, we have 2 city forests that we can call as an area of Transkon corporate social responsibility, working hand in hand with environmental department of provincial government in East Kalimantan and in Balikpapan. Now, we try to plant trees, we try to maintain some of the forestation, as you mentioned on your presentation earlier. We try to reignite forestation, since our industry, as you well know, coal mining, because that's what our target was and still is. Mining is quite dirty in terms of social activists in environmental side. So we try to partake in forestation activities where we plant trees, maintain those trees to this day. And we have 2 areas that we can call that is corporate social responsibility area of PT Transkon TBK. Now, after our first endeavor in education and then environment, we try to branch out to governance. At the moment, we are trying to establish ISO certification for anti-bribery. Once we have done this certification, which we expect could be completed within the next 3 to 4 months, we will, well, in my opinion, we will become a complete company, although we are located here in Balikpapan in East Kalimantan, a local company, but we believe in our capacity, in our perspective, we have achieved environmental, social, and governance. And one of our action, we try to do gender equality in our workplace. As you know, I believe that is also one of your studies, Mrs. Amelia. Gender equality has been quite lately, and we try to develop this issue, and we try to overcome this issue by having to increase the number of female in our workforce. When I joined Transkon back in 2013, we only had about 12 to 13 people, female employees. Now we have about 70 to 80 people located in numerous areas, spreading from Sumatra to Malukus. Now, because of this achievement, we managed to be invited by United Nations just a few weeks ago to address United Nations on behalf of a private company in Asia Pacific. We addressed the United Nations in a forum called United Nations Global Compact Network. This is something that we are quite proud of, Mrs. Amelia, and we think even though we are a small company located in basically, if you know Indonesia, it's located in mostly forest area, and people still think that Kalimantan consists of trees, not cities. Now, with this invitation to speak in the United Nations Forum in Asia Pacific in Bangkok on June 2nd, 2022, just a few weeks ago, this is a step moving forward. We believe we are on the right direction in terms of establishing SDGs, not just in our company, but also in Balikpapan, East Kalimantan. And we're trying to spread this same concept, this same vision, not just to Kalimantan, but all over Indonesia, all over our area of operation. Although we are still considering ourselves to be a small company, but we are trying to go national with our vision of education, gender equality, and environmental. We think those are the 3 pillars that will become Transkon main pillars in battling climate change, in battling corporate governance, in battling women in the workforce. We think these are the kind of issues that we are going to be dealing a lot in the future, and we think it's best that we started early. Transkon has been around for 20 years, and we still think this is quite early for a company to develop a certain point of view in terms of these 3 pillars. And we believe we are the pioneers in Balikpapan and East Kalimantan, and by being pioneers means we have to provide an example, and we did provide an example, although, as I mentioned repeatedly, based on our own capacity, it is small. We are nothing compared to the big boys, the big corporate conglomerates, but we are trying to set an example. At least we started off with our hometown, Balikpapan, our province, East Kalimantan. We're hoping this concept, this way of thinking will be brought forward nationally by this forum, by Filantropi Indonesia. I believe that's my short presentation, Mrs. Amelia. I don't want to take up much of your time and much of audience, because I believe there is another speaker. But yes, I'm very proud to be here, to be invited on this great forum, as I mentioned. And I believe this is a good way to spread news and care in terms of moving forward as a corporate, and let the public know that the corporate doesn't just care on profit, doesn't just care on balance sheet, figures, numbers, but we also care about caring to our society, caring to our environment, caring to our government. And this is a way to show our affection. Again, thank you, Mrs. Amelia. I return the floor to you, Mrs. Amelia. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Alex. Well, every one of us started from the small one, right? And becoming big. So it's a very enlightful story of Transkon. And I will move to the last but not least speaker, Bapak Bani and Mulia, President Director of PT Samudera Indonesia, and also member of Advisory Board of Filantropi Indonesia. Pak Bani served as Managing Director of Samudera Indonesia since 2009, and as CEO and also President Director since 2020. And as CEO, he oversees the overall group strategy and has been leading the business development and expansion. Bani also served as Vice Chairman of the Permanent Committee of Sea Transportation in Kadin, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also Transportation and Energy Department of the Indonesian Employer Association, APindo. He's also active in the Young Presidents Organization and served as Chapter Chair of EPO Pan Indonesia Chapter since 2015 to 2017 period. He studied in the University of Indonesia, Faculty of Economics, majoring in Management, and Deakin University, Australia, majoring in Finance. So without further ado, I'll invite Pak Bani to talk about the experience of Samudera Indonesia, dealing with the corporate foundations and also the experience in dealing with the SDGs. Time is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Amelia. Good afternoon, everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera. Greetings to everyone. Thank you for having me in this afternoon session of Filantropi Indonesia, Philanthropy Festival. I don't have much to add on to my previous fellow speakers. I think they cover a lot of grounds, but I got a little bit as just to share a bit of our experience in Samudera Indonesia as a Indonesian company that also active in social activities. I think the basic thinking for us is I am myself a third generation for my family business. This is a family business that was started by my late grandparents, and I think the basic idea that I get from my late grandparents, the message from them is for us to always to be able to contribute something to Indonesia and to our society and especially Indonesia. And I think my grand taught us that whatever we make in business is for us also to be able to give back, to contribute. And in my generation, it led us to thinking, what comes first? You know, the I think I always like the analogy of the chicken and egg. So which one comes first, the chicken or egg? So does the business comes first and then we make profit, then we give back, or that we have to give back first and then God will give us more rewards and for us to be able to give back. So with that thinking, we believe that even with the chicken and egg theory, there's limitless and debate, right? And I think we believe the same thinking that we would doubt if the profit or business has to come first. So that's why we created yayasans, non-profit organization. Doesn't have to wait until the businesses created profit, but we immediately can do something, right? Immediately we can do concrete action or activities that can benefit society. So that's how we got to think and set up foundations in Samudera Indonesia. We started off with we have a yayasan called Yayasan Sudarpo, which comes from my grandfather's name. But then Yayasan Sudarpo then also started several foundations under Samudera Indonesia. Basically, all the yayasan is active in, for us, is very basic. I think we believe that the one thing that will that is basically needed and can help all the other, if you want to say, sustainable development goals is first and foremost for us is education. I think if we want to fight poverty, if we want to create equality, all that, I think basic and foremost has to be to promote education. And I think we in Indonesia have an endless homework to promote education all over the country. So that is currently our focus. And in Samudera, we try to be involved as much as possible concerning our expertise. So because we operate, we work in archipelago, in islands, so that's why one of the programs is we want to be anything with boats. We try to do and help students who has to go to school with boats between islands or between rivers, or just crossing some any type of whether it has to be crossing islands or rivers and all those sort of things, because simply because we have a shipyard, we know how to operate boats, we can build boats, and so all these small things that hopefully can create immediate impact and benefit to people, to students, to the future of Indonesia, for all the youngsters that will become future leaders of Indonesia. So I think that's basically where we do scholarships, anything that has to do with education, and also other things that we can collaborate with. So we're happy to be involved in PFI, Perhimpunan Filantropi, and we can meet other yayasan as or companies like Transkon, yayasannya Ibu Min, and now also Sasakawa Peace Foundation. So we're happy to explore any collaboration that we might be able to do together, because Indonesia is a huge place, it's a huge country, and we can definitely do things in this country for the greater good of Indonesia, and that's because we call ourselves Samudera Indonesia. That's why we want to do as much as possible for Indonesia in all areas that we operate. And we don't as we know that Indonesia is so big that we almost operate everywhere all over Indonesia, but in some remote places that we don't have any so to say business activities, we don't have a port activity there, we don't have ships carrying cargoes there. That's how we would want to the thing that if we don't have any business there, then we must be able to do some social activities there. That's how we approach it. So the yayasan has a mission to help not only for the company to grow the business, but the yayasan can grow the outreach of the social activities to other places in Indonesia where we don't have any business interests. So that's, I think, a story from Samudera Indonesia that I can share, and I'm happy to join the discussion. Thank you, Amelia.
Okay, thanks so much, Pak Bani. Well, we have already learned from 4 distinguished speakers about Sasakawa Peace Foundation and Nin Una Foundation, Transkon, Jaya, and also Samudera Indonesia. I don't know, I think there hasn't any participant who posed a question, but I can start because I'm quite very interested to learn more. Well, I think it's a question to everyone here, to all of the speakers. When you started foundation, and I believe you have the foundation has developed well, and also the corporation, right? And learning from the stories about transformation and how you deal with the SDGs, for example, I'm just curious how, for example, you manage the challenge from when dealing with the program and collaboration, how to deal with how to start the collaboration with the local government, anywhere. For example, I don't know, in southern Thailand, you can explore Ibu Maho, and also in other foundation, because I think other organization wanted to learn about many strategies, for example, for a foundation to can collaborate with other organization, with other foundation, and also local government within the framework of the ecosystem of philanthropy in Indonesia, like this. Challenge of the regulation, challenge in the regulation of the corporate foundation. For example, there is regulation that corporations should, do CSR, something like that. That's quite a big question. And the second one, I think it will be very fruitful if you can, all of the speakers can give quite a, let's say, detailed experience in dealing with if there is a difficulty in SDGs reporting, because I heard a number of organizations say that, well, it is very difficult in, we don't have much time. And I believe your great big foundation have already work on SDGs, and maybe it is good to share or to convince other to do like SDGs achievement and reporting. So to show that it is not difficult, isn't it? I think. So, well, that's the big question. I don't know who will start. Oh, okay, there is a Q&A. Okay, there is One more question. Oh, okay. From Patria Pratama, the question is to all panelists. If you were to collaborate or provide grant to NGOs, what are some of the most determinant factor you have affecting or choosing which institution to work with? Oh, very important question. Okay, maybe Ibu Maho would like to start.
Thank you, Ibu Amelia. I think our case are not really relevant to corporate foundations, but because I'm given the opportunity, I want to talk about experiences. The first point about the provincial government, the work of provincial government, that basically that in our case, that our major partner is not the provincial government, but I'm trying to involve the major stakeholders all the time when organizing a meeting or discussions, which include the provincial government or sometimes military or of course educational institutions or Islamic organizations. But what is most difficult in our case is how to cope with all these different levels of the political stance vis-a-vis central government. So some organizations in southern Thailand have a very close to Thai government, while others are very more resistance to the Thai government, central government. In that case, it is very difficult to cope with maneuver between all these different organizations, but we try our best not to exclude, but to include as much as possible. At the same time, trying to based on that all the time we design a program based on the precise analysis of the political situation, as well as a conflict, and then based on that, and trying to work with those people who are trying to build a peaceful movement to the conflict resolution. And the reporting, our case is not relevant for others, I guess, but also in supporting the peace mediations, it's very difficult to report on time. Sometimes there are secretive nature of the meetings, and so we are trying to report after many years how we assess the achievement of our programs in a more qualitative basis. Yeah. And lastly, the working with NGOs is, of course, it depends on the sector, I guess, but sometimes we have to decide if we only pick one NGO in particular sector, in particular region, it destruct the very good relationship amongst NGOs. So we try to analyze and trying to look at all these relationships amongst the organizations so that we don't destroy the supportive working relationship amongst organizations. But of course, I think as well as others, we select the partners from the viewpoint of the good reporting or the good designing of the programs and those kind of the quality of the program. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Move to Pak Indra.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Should I answer the one in the Q&A or your question, Amelia?
Well, the question from Patria Pratama. It is all to the panelists. I think you can also answer this question. If you were to collaborate to provide grants to NGOs, what's some of the most determinant factor you have when selecting or choosing which institution to work with? And also my previous question related to the how you convinced to you can collaborate with the government, either local or provincial government. That's maybe you can share the strategies of your organization.
Okay. Okay, I'll just answer your question too. So the challenges are there, and it's not easy. It takes a lot of process, and unlike if you, for example, if you are trying to sell a product or a service to anyone, they normally would like to know which institution or what kind of credibility you have before even considering purchasing your product or services. So, which means that you need to build your credibility, and it takes a while. It takes a while until they have some sort of a buy-in. And not only that you bring very clear about your intention, but also who you are, or your credibility, or whether you are trustworthy. And even though you say, oh, this program is good, it brings impact to others, to your government, or to your institutions, to your local government, it still takes sometimes to get a buy-in, and for them, not only on the top level, but also the middle rank, and also the field officer, they still need to have buy-ins, right? So I think the most important element is being trustworthy, being sincere and genuine on what you are trying to achieve. And not only it is your vision or what you want to have as a goal, but also create a shared goal. Because it is not your best interest to only have it's your goal of the program or it's your goal of the foundation if it's not shared with them or whoever is the subject that you are trying to create an impact for. So communication skills are very important, and it's imperative. And people in the foundation have various level of skills. Not only create a successful first meeting, that is very rare in our field of work. But also, once they have a buy-in, then you have a shared goal, then it is easier, not easy, but easier to move forward. And most importantly, regarding the grant, we almost never give grants that are in cash. It's always in kind, almost always in kind, which means that we bring value to whatever the program is. We can bring as much value we can, and we look at who we will collaborate with. If they have what you call the passion to do it together, and having a very strong team or whoever at the top of the team, then it is a show of character of who we're going to work with. And we also highly encourage that everywhere we go, we never alone. We always engage with the local institutions, and one day, the program will be theirs. They will be the one who are doing, executing, and fundraising for the program. We will move to a different city, different institution, different program. They will need to be the one who carry on the program as long as the program is needed. So what do? We don't just withdraw, but we provide some sort of assistantship, mentoring. We are there to think about challenges, we think about possible solutions. And we never want to own a program just ourselves, the foundation. And I think that is the key, whether something is sustainable or not. And talking about SDG, if you remember the Undang-Undang Dasar 1945 Pasal 27 Ayat 2, it states that in our basic 1945 Constitution, it says that every Indonesian has the right for a suitable work and a suitable livelihood. So since 70 is already there. The SDG just make it more global, and so that people can think about the same thing all at once together, thinking for a solution. But all along we've been having that constitution, and if you ask me now whether we are there or not, we are still in the process of being, becoming that. Because at this point right now, for example, the unemployment rate of 6% in Indonesia, that is about almost 9 million people. If you ask each and every one of them whether they are given suitable income generation activities or suitable livelihood, they will say no. So the responsibility does not lie only on government or institutions such as us, but we need to involve the people so that they have that goal also. It is shared with them. They feel it is theirs also. And they are capable in arriving at the solution, which we assist for them to understand. For example, training to be more entrepreneurial. And then during the practice of being entrepreneurial, you are there. You are providing coaching, mentoring. You're not letting them out of your sight. You are there all the time. You're accessible. You can be asked anytime. And I think that is also another strong point that I want to underline, is that you can empower somebody by education, by training, but you need to stay there with them until they're fully proficient in executing it themselves. Once that they need you less and less, then you create them as a mentor, a local coach. So then you have a pyramid locally in the region that is a replication of the foundation, is a replication of you as a trainer, mentor, coach. And I would say, if it comes down to one thing, the foundation, our foundation, the most important thing is that we want to provide pendampingan usaha for as long as possible, for as many years as being needed, even for going to the next generation. Because business, it does not only last until the death of the founder, but also to the next generation. Like Mas Bani is a third generation already, and he will likely want to pass it to the fourth and fifth, and bringing the impact to the, especially your neighbor, your fellow citizens. And that would be my take in the foundation of a family foundation or any foundation, that it needs to be replicated. It needs to have presence, hand-holding, for example, hand-holding for as long as it is being needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
I would like to give opportunity to Pak Alex and Pak Bani. I know there are more questions from Ibu Susanti Sitorus from Filantropi Indonesia board, and also from Pak Fakih Harusiadi. Very good question. I think Pak Alex and Pak Bani can also reflect on to answer this. From Ibu Susanti is, to what extent does your family or corporate foundation engage technical expertise from external groups to advocate your initiative, particularly in SDGs area that are new to your foundation? What areas do you find most challenging to get support from external experts? And also, what is the strategy of the foundation or company to expand the impact of the program in their respective areas? Are there any good practices or multi-stakeholder collaboration to share? I'll give the time to Pak Alex and Pak Bani. Feel free to answer this question.
Okay. I'll have a go first, Mrs. Amelia. I'll try to address some of your questions, some of Mr. Patria, some of Mrs. Susanti, and some of Mr. Fakih. What I would like to address first was your question, Mrs. Amelia, on how to manage challenge and collaboration with local government. Well, when we started off, when Transkon became a public company back in 2020, we have to abide by certain regulation dictated by IFSA, Indonesia Financial Service Authority, or it is widely known as OJK. And in 2022, it is the first time that all public company needs to release sustainable reporting. Now, we have to abide by that rules. Now, we are a local company in Balikpapan. It is not even a provincial state city. It is going to be quite difficult, and based on my experience, we have to a round show. We have to go from one department to another department of our city government to introduce our company and to ask simply what we can do for them. We have a small program, but it's not going to be enough. We have to do quite a variety of program if we want to excel as a public company. Now, we ask our local government what we can do for them. We ask numerous departments, what is your program that we can support, that we can work hand in hand, collaborate, and even increase. Now, based on that discussion, there are some challenges, but there are numerous relationships that we manage together. And one of our environmental program, planting trees and then maintain those trees over a period of time, come from those particular roadshow. And based on that experience, I have to say, I have to agree with Mr. Uno on the fact that we need to establish who we are, what we believe in, what is our vision, our presence in particular city or in a particular provincial state, what we want to accomplish. We have to make that fact known first. And based on those facts, based on that collaboration, then we can establish a program, a workable program. We cannot go right into a city, right into the government office and dictate, this is what we want to do. And that's going to be quite hard. Based on our experience, at least, that's going to be quite hard. So that's why we need to go from one office to the other, establish our existence, and explain who we are, what we came to do, what our intention are. And based on that, then we can establish a program, a workable program. Now, achievement. You mentioned what is sustainable development goals achievement that we have come to pass over the past few years. Now, on behalf of Transkon, we have numerous achievements, but again, it's a small achievement on our part based on our capacity. We started off with small programs, education, and we believe this is quite an achievement. This program has taken appreciation from local government and numerous stakeholders, and we as employees have become guest lecturer at local high school, local universities, and this is quite an accomplishment. We pride ourselves in that particular area. And as I mentioned before, my particular pride and joy was to speak, well, my president director speak on behalf of Transkon in United Nations. That is our particular pride and joy. It is not widely known, but nonetheless, that's our sustainable development goals in terms of gender equality in the workforce. Now, addressing Mr. Patria on factor for choosing non-government organization. We chose based on particular vision. Our vision dictates who we chose to do a collaboration with. We chose Filantropi Indonesia, we chose United Nations Global Compact, we chose several other non-government organizations. It's based on the same ideas. And our first and foremost ideas would be education. This is the pillar of foundation that we believe will take Indonesia to the next level. We want to see Indonesia not just surviving pandemic, not just surviving recession, but also achieving another level of evolution. We are still classified as third countries in most of nations in the world. We think that Indonesia is just not, it can evolve beyond just being a third country. We can believe Indonesia is the pillar of Asia Pacific, and Indonesia has demonstrated that it is the pillar of Asia Pacific. Now, what will become of Indonesia if the human resources, our young one, our youngsters, did not evolve from just being a regular or mediocre people? We want to excel. We want to show the world that Indonesia belongs at the same table as the big boys, as the big ones, the big nations. And to become that kind of nation, we need our young ones. We need more educated people. We need more intelligent people. This is our vision. This is what we think will be necessary for years to come. This is our vision, and this is how we determine who we will be in partner with. Now, it's one of the factors that I have taken into the sample. Now, to the extent technical expertise, yes, it's going to be quite difficult. It is based on my experience, finding consultant to do special work in terms of, let's say, for emission calculation, carbon emission calculation. We are a small company, again, located in Balikpapan. It is not easy to find consultant or people that know that particular calculation. We have to find technical expertise. We have to think beyond the normal norm. We have to think beyond the normal expertise. And luckily, we found those people. It is not located in Jakarta or other Java. We found those people right here in Balikpapan, Kalimantan. That goes to show that even the local have the technicality, have the expertise to bring forward such a complicated calculation. And we believe that if we want to excel, if we want to grow, if we want to evolve, we need local to grow, to evolve as well. Not just people in big cities in Java, but also people in small cities, because economy need to be implemented everywhere, not just in the big cities. That's one of the areas that Mr. Uno mentioned before, that once he goes into a specific city, a specific region, then he will implement a program. And after the local government or the partner that he chose has managed to regulate that program, then program into the local government, the local NGO, or the people or partner that he come to collaborate with. And again, there are people in other areas in Indonesia that has the same technical expertise that just doesn't receive the same spotlight as people in big cities. And that's what we try to bring forth. That's what we try to take into collaboration. So it's not just people in the big cities that reap the benefit, but people in the small cities, the small region, localized region also have the same benefit. That's our views on the extent of technical expertise. On the area of most challenging, for Transkon at least, the area that we found to be most challenging would be environmental. It's not easy for us as a small company to calculate carbon emission. So we have to find the consultant needed. And luckily we found that consultant in local university here in Balikpapan. But that goes to show that we need to step up our way of thinking. We need to increase our knowledge. We have to broaden our horizon. That we are not just a small company. We cannot call ourselves located in a small cities in eastern region of Indonesia, but we have to think ourselves as part of a nationwide companies. We have to think of ourselves as Indonesian. We have to increase our ability. We have to increase our capacity. We have to increase our ability beyond our expectation. So that is our way of thinking, and the most challenging area would be environmental, because it's not easy to find the expertise needed to manage that area. Okay, on moving on to Mr. Faki, strategy to expand. We try to expand along with our business expansion. If we expand into a certain region in Eastern Indonesia or Western Indonesia, try to implement a local program as well. So it goes parallel, hand in hand with our business expansion. If we expand into a certain city, even it's localized, even it's remote, we need to establish a program. That's what we're trying to do, and that's what we have succeeded so far. We are priding ourselves of establishing a remote corporate social responsibility program.
Okay.
I'm sorry to take up much of your time, Mrs. Amelia. I just have one more question need to answer. Multi-stakeholder collaboration. We try to have multiple stakeholder collaboration by way of engaging in mass program. Again, it's no program, for instance, education or environmental, but we try to take as many parties as possible. Because again, this is not just Transkon, this is not just local government, this is not just one institution, but it is a collective mind, a collective action started by the people itself. If the people started their way of thinking, changing their way of thinking, it is going to be enormous impact. If the people only limited to themselves that this is a separate program, this can only be done by the government, or this can only be done by companies, big companies or medium-sized company, then this program is not going to expand. This program is not going to excel. This program will not be evolving. This program is going to stop. This program is going to be pending as soon as the company stop working in that particular area or that particular city. So it is not going to be sustainable moving forward. That is how we see things. Mrs. Amelia, I give you back the floor.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pak Alex. And we are looking forward to listen to Pak Bani. Yeah, you can explore from some of the questions that already launched.
Yeah. Well, I think basically I think my two panelists, colleagues have answered or addressed all the questions. I don't really have a lot to add, but in principle, I definitely agree that do good things by ourselves. We need to collaborate with others, including other organizations and NGOs, and I think in a lot of factors we definitely need to work with other people, and so that's the spirit from our foundation, from our side, and yeah, I think that would cover this. All these questions are, yeah. Yeah, it's basically I work with other organizations.
How do you envision your organization 10 years from now?
Yeah, okay. For me, I think even 10 years from now, we'll, as I mentioned before, I think Indonesia is a big place. It's a big country. We have a lot of work to do. I don't think it's going to be a never-ending thing to do good in Indonesia. And yeah, maybe like for now, like from my experience, we used to do it in the company. We used to do it ourselves as a division, but then we created yayasans, and the yayasan employs more people, dedicate their time and energy all for yayasan work, right? So I believe in the future, I think I guess Pak Alex, I assume, is still doing it under the company PT Transkon gitu, but later on I don't think they will have enough time to do it under PT Transkon. PT Transkon probably would have another yayasan by itself gitu. Maybe saya so tahu Pak, sorry, but I mean I'm sure that because there's gonna be so much work to do for social activities, and I believe so there will be more and more, and hopefully there will be more and more people like how Pak Indra mentioned earlier, how OKOC has grown and will grow again. From now it's 500,000 something. UKM will come to the millions, and Indonesia is a country with 270 million people. So we will need more and more people to go in through philanthropy, to build foundations and work together, and to to build Indonesia, membangun Indonesia. And I with philanthropic works, and so it will get busier, Bu Amelia, and not less busy, but we'll get more busy.
Thanks so much. I think that's also the closing statement. So, well, I would like to ask a closing statement from Pak Indra and Ibu Maho, please. Pak Indra first, maybe.
Okay, thank you. So, closing statement. Yes. I think PFI did a very good job in being or providing the platform for communications for all of us. And right now, we already narrowed into some of the SDGs that can be achieved by the members of PFI. Going ahead, the communication needs to be facilitated. So, for example, I'm buried down into everything entrepreneurship. So PFI can pull me up and then talk to other philanthropists, and we can share ideas, learn much more from what we are currently doing. And last but not least, agree with what Mas Bani said. Together, we are more. Thank you.
Good. Okay, Ibu Mayo.
Terima kasih ya. I learned a lot, and also I got so much inspiration from other three speakers. Your stories are really inspirational. That in East Kalimantan even, and I'm sure that in 10 years, the role of Indonesian philanthropy will be much bigger. So I think there are a lot of things to be done together for the sake of the more peaceful and more sustainable the world. Yeah, many things, I hope. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Maho. Well, that's all. If Pak Alex want to say for the closing, very short one.
I'm taking a lot of everybody's time, Mrs. Amelia. But what I'm trying to convey was we start small, but yes, I have to agree with Mr. Bani. There are lots of things to do in Indonesia, and in 10 years, who knows? Transkon Foundation, dedicated solely for the advancement of entrepreneurial, just like what Mr. Uno said, and other areas. And we try to branch out, and Indonesia is a never-ending story. We grew up in Indonesia. We make our living in Indonesia. So it is in our best interest, not just us, Transkon, but everybody in Indonesia, to make Indonesia a prosperous country, to make Indonesia to be central of Asia Pacific. At least that's what I see what's going to happen in Indonesia over the next 10 years. And it will be our obligation to become a beacon advancement in terms of philanthropy in Indonesia. And Transkon, for one, is going to start its beacon in East Indonesia. That's what we're looking at the moment. So thank you, Mrs. Amelia, for this great chance. Thank you, Filantropi Indonesia. Thank you for the chance to speak up our position, to speak out our views. Thank you.
Thanks so much to all panelists. I'm sorry for, I know it's already past the time, but it is very fruitful meeting and then learning too. I couldn't give more to thank you all, and we learned there is a dynamic within each foundation transformation that has been created, and to be what you are now as a foundation. But I'm very grateful that all of the foundation and we all really aware that there are still a lot of job to do, a lot of work to do, and this is time for work, collaborate together. Oh, I'm sorry, Pak Bani wanted to say closing, maybe, I forget.
Thank you, Ibu.
All of you, and very grateful to have Filantropi Indonesia, and so we can work together, collaborate together, and make a better impact to what we have done for Indonesia. So apologize if anything that I've done not really proper, and thanks so much to Ibu Mbak Dinda. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih, Bu Amel. Thank you for our great panelists, moderator, for the discussion that I believe give us to today's topic. Before we end today's forum, we would like to invite all the panelists and moderator to take some documentation. We highly encourage all of you to open the camera. We also invite Pak Gusman to join us. The committee will take the photo 3 times. So on my mark, smile, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Last time. 1, 2, 3. Once again, thank you, Bu Maho, Pak Bani, Pak Indra, Pak Alexander, and Bu Amelia for best practices and some recommendation that related to embrace the role family and corporate foundation. Bapak, Ibu, all participants, today's forum is recorded by the committee. If you want to rewatch this forum, please visit our YouTube channel, Filantropi TV, or visit our website, fifest.id, our social media and website on fifest.id, because there will be interesting upcoming series event that be insightful for all of us. We look forward to welcoming you in the next forum. Thank you and see you soon. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih semuanya. Terima kasih Pak Bani, Bu Amel, Pak Indra, Bu Maho.
Pak Bani, thank you Pak Bani. Pak Indra, terima kasih.
Terima kasih.
See you guys soon. Bye.